Preferences and Choices webinar.
It's not started.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Camborne Mews Emerging Preferences and Choices webinar. My name is Leticia Morantoyewale, and I'm the Refurbishment Project Manager. We'll be managing the day-to-day projects with our consultants and contractors on the proposed refurbishment works at Camborne Mews. I'll be chairing this meeting. I would like to thank you all for watching this recording. This meeting is being recorded for Camborne Mews residents and will be put on all our communication channels. Here at Lancaster West Neighbourhood Team W11, we are committed to our promise to co-design with you, our residents, on the proposed works to your building. We will be sending you a copy of our Emerging Preferences and Choices booklets and a survey form to be completed and returned to us by 30th July 2023. In today's meeting, we will provide an update on where we are on the proposed refurbishment works for Camborne Mews. We will also talk you through the building material and colour finishes and all the proposed works we have put together for your consideration as you complete your survey. We encourage you to please watch this recording before you complete your survey. Start slides, please. Here are some of our neighbourhood refurbishment team members, and you'll be hearing from some of us on this recording. Next slide, please. This slide shows the timeline of engagements that we've held with residents and that we propose holding going forward. Back in 2027, we held the first meeting under the Phase 1 engagement to talk to you about our ideas for the refurbishment works to your building. Between then and summer 2021, we've held several other meetings with you to talk through our book of ideas and the initial design ideas engagements. We received an overall positive feedback on the proposed works under the Phase 1 engagements, and this has been further developed into an emerging preference and choices phase. We are currently now on the Phase 2 engagements, where we will be looking at the booklets, information that we're providing to you in the booklets for you to complete a survey. Next slide, please. Just to do a quick recap on what issues have been raised so far in the previous engagement that we had with you. You did come up and inform us about 10 priorities of what you would like us to do at Camborne Mews. We then further went out and carried out some condition surveys and identified the following issues. That we've got thermal bridging in the building. This basically means that we've got cold spots in the brickwork due to poorly insulated walls. We've also got a poor insulation to the roof. We've got poor ventilation in homes, and we've also got poorly insulated and draughty windows. Next slide, please. To be able to offer solutions to all the issues which we've just highlighted following the surveys, the 5 aims of our refurbishments would cover high quality thermal insulation to the building and your homes, robust windows being installed, ventilation with heat recovery, air tightness, and energy saving. The main high quality thermal insulation will come off the back of the works we'll be carrying out to the roof, the walls, and the windows. And all of this works will impact positively in providing weather-tight energy efficiencies in your building, and this should translate also into energy savings. Next slide, please. The main works, as earlier mentioned, will cover the roofs, and the walls, the windows, and ventilation. Additional works which would also be included will be for us to install solar panels, photovoltaic panels, also known as solar panels, will be added to the roof of the buildings on completion of the roofing works. Next slide, please. As part of our promise to co-design with our residents, we initially had the presentation with you where we went through, as earlier mentioned, what the issues are at the building, hearing from our residents what works they would like to have done to the buildings. We are now at a phase which we refer to as the emerging preferences and choices. This is where we've put together the materials and the color choices that we propose using to carry out the refurbishment works. And we would like you, once you receive the booklet, to go through the information and watch this video to help you make an informed decision on the choices that you will be making. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Can we go back to the previous slide? Pardon me. These are the three elements which are part of the works that we'll be carrying out. Double glazed sash windows that do not perform well. The windows in their current state affect the thermal performance of the block. My colleague Maria will talk a bit more about the proposed works in her presentation with regards to the windows. We also have poorly insulated cavity walls. The thermal performance of the block is quite poor. Where you see the picture, where you see a lot of the reds and the yellows and the orange actually indicates that all these are areas where we can refer to as weak points of the building. And this area is where you can see the heat escapes from the building from inside out. The solution to this is for us to carry out external wall insulation to improve the thermal performance of the building. In the third picture, this shows part of the roof. The roof is also poorly insulated. What we intend to do then to improve on the thermal performance of the roof is to carry out an upgrade of the roof insulation. And this would mean that the thermal performance of the building will be greatly improved. As part of the roofing works, which I mentioned earlier also, will be installing solar panels. What the solar panels does is that it captures the sun's energy and converts this into electricity to generate renewable energy. This, in the long run, would actually provide energy efficiencies to the building. We will most likely be connecting this up to provide lighting in communal areas. All the proposed works would include improved ventilation and upgrades to heating. My colleagues will be touching on this on their presentations. Next slide, please. These pictures again show exactly what we've already just talked about. And we will be covering the external thermographic performance of the building, which we've already highlighted as being quite poor. We've also talked about the fact that all the components which we need to replace to be able to improve on the thermal efficiencies and performance of the building. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. We've already mentioned the items of works which we're going to be carrying out. Next slide, please. We are currently now at the phase 2 stage and phase 2 engagement with our residents, and would like to go through the current designs proposals that we've put together. Next slide, please. As part of the new roof installation, we will be carrying out an entire roof upgrade. And the reason being that we have identified following the survey that was carried out that there's poor waterproofing of the existing roof. We have high levels of heat loss, and there's coldness during the winter. Of the two options of either insulating between the roof and the above ceiling joints or insulating over existing roof, we will be carrying out the roofing insulation and upgrade over the existing roof. This is because it would improve the thermal comfort, reduce heat loss through roof, and there will be minimal or no internal disruption to the residents. Next slide, please. Following the roofing installation and as part of the roofing works, we will also be replacing the rainwater goods and the pipes to the roof, which form part of the roofs. We will also be replacing the existing tiles to the roof. On the left, we see a picture of the existing roof tiles. What we're proposing is to replace this roof tiles following the works. And we would like you to go through in completing your survey, choosing a color of your choice between the three which we've provided here under the proposed new roof tiles. I would request that you please make your choice bearing in mind the brick color choice or the finish to the building itself when you come to it. We'll go through the details on that in another slide now. Next slide, please. As part of the roof upgrade, I did mention about the solar PV panels. And what this would do is to collect energy from the sun and converts this into renewable energy that can be used elsewhere to provide energy savings. Next slide, please. Under the external wall insulation, when we carried out the initial survey, the feedback which we received from the phase one, we understand that the majority of the residents do not wish to have internal wall insulation. The preference, therefore, is for us to carry out external wall insulation. This will cause minimal disruption and there will be no internal area losses. And this forms part of the decision of us going with the external wall insulation. By installing external wall insulation, we'll be improving the thermal comforts of your homes. There will be no impact on recent internal kitchen or bathroom refurbishment works. There will be little internal disruption to the gross floor area of your homes, no internal area loss. And this is an opportunity also for us to co-design with you and provide new facades to the building. Next slide, please. We have provided in this booklet the color choices which we're proposing to use for the brick slabs, which would come on top of the wall insulation which we'll be installing. The first is very similar to the existing color which is currently at Camborne Mews. And we've got options 2A all the way through to option 3, which provide additional colors which we're proposing to use. We would request that you please look through this, and as I earlier mentioned, look at the roofing colors we provided as well in making your choices as to how you would like the building to look once the works are completed. Next slide, please. Aside from providing brick options for the finish, we're also proposing using rendering to the building. This is a versatile choice and available in wide range of colors, textures, and finishes. This is an opportunity to enhance and change the appearance of the building from brick to just having it rendered and painted, decorated. When painted in a light color, render systems improve the thermal protection of the building by better heat reflection. It also protects the property against wind and rain, and it is the first line of defense against water ingress and penetrating damp issues. So along with the brick, we are also offering this render finish, and we would like to know what your feedback is on how you would like your building to look on completion of the works. Next slide, please. As part of the works, we will also be carrying out a redecoration and an upgrade of the communal areas. This will be the staircases and the hallway areas that lead directly into your flats. I would like to mention here that all previously painted areas will be painted like for like. What we mean in essence is that the same colors of previously painted areas would have the same color used again. Next slide, please. As part of the works, we're also proposing carrying out a waste management plan. We're looking to enhance our approach to the way we dispose of food waste and recycling on the estate generally. The refurbishment presents an opportunity for us to be able to improve the waste management, increase recycling, and perhaps also introduce food waste composting for your block. We would discuss this further at the phase 3 engagement. This is just to bring to your attention the plans that we have across the estate. And we will look at the details in regards to Camborne Mews, what needs to be done. Next slide, please. These pictures show what we're proposing or what is available. And we would, like I said, during the phase 3 engagement, be able to provide you with more information on what can be tailored at Camborne Mews. Next slide, please. I will now hand you over to my colleague, Maria, who will be taking you through the choices on the windows. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you, Leticia. So yeah, I'm going to explain the different window options. Based on phase 1 results, we know triple glaze is the preferred option. It has many benefits that we're going to explore in the following slides. Please, next slide. So triple glaze is substantially better in terms of thermal performance, energy savings, soundproofing, and reducing energy bills, which means higher comfort for the people living in the property, as well as reduced noise. Installing new windows will affect the appearance of the homes, not just individual flats, but also the external facade, which give a more cohesive look to the building. Additionally, we are offering different opening mechanisms. So right now I'm going to present different options and you will need to choose what you prefer on the service that we circulate later. So the first one will be the tilt and turn opening, which the tilt position allows for the window to be pushed to the inside just for a bit of ventilation. And the turn position is when you fully open it to the side, as you can see on the first diagram on the left. Then we got the top hung window, which is basically you push it outwards up to the limit of the restrictor. And the final option is like the previous one, the top hung, but also has a reversible function, which basically means you can turn the window on a 30-60 angle, which allows you for easy maintenance and cleaning of the glaze. Next, I'm going to present the different materials these windows can be made of. Just for you to be aware, not all windows are available in all materials, so you need to choose an open mechanism, which is a specific material option. Next slide, please. So these are the 3 materials we're currently exploring. First, we got timber, which should give a more traditional look to the window. It has a shorter lifespan, but still pretty good, 60 years, and tend to have better thermal performance. However, the drawbacks is they tend to be harder to maintain, and which lead to more frequent maintenance. Then we got the aluminium, which is the completely opposite of the spectrum. So it usually has lower performance regarding like thermal performance, but it tends to be easy to maintain, to clean, but it gives a bit of a modern look to the window, and they tend to be cold to the touch. And finally, the hybrid option is the composite, which is a mixture of timber and aluminium. The aluminium will be on the external face of the window and timber on the inside. This combination gives both benefits. So the side that is exposed to the elements is better protected. So it means the maintenance tends to be easier and have a longer lifespan. But as well, we have higher U values, which means a better thermal performance because of the timber. Next slide, please. And the last decision that you need to make is regarding the color. So if you have chosen the all aluminum casement window, then you can choose an anodized finish for the external side of the window. And internal as well. If you have choose the composite window or the timber window, you can choose any of the RAL colors from basalt gray, signal gray to pure white, as well as like the anodized gray. But only if the hybrid, like the aluminium composite, will be able to be anodized and only externally. And that's all. Thank you for listening. I'm going to pass the mic to my colleague Alekia to cover ventilation. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Apologies about that. Thank you, Maria. Hi, everyone. I'm here to talk about the proposed ventilation measures for your home. And this will mainly focus on the mechanical ventilation for heat recovery, which is also called the MVHR systems. So following the residents' feedback, we have engaged previously in phase 1 on ventilation and specifically a bit on mechanical ventilation. And we've got 45% of the residents who seem positive about this. So I'll just explain about this a bit more in detail in the next slides. Next slide, please. So mechanical ventilation with heat recovery system is basically a state-of-the-art ventilation system that will bring in fresh air into the habitable rooms in your flat. So typically into your bedrooms, living rooms, drawing rooms, etc. You will be getting fresh air into your flats while the stale air will also be extracted at the same time. The system has a benefit of reducing the energy usage in the winters because the air that is coming inside is already pre-treated to be warm, which means you are using lesser energy in heating the air inside your home. The key thing that an MVHR does is, as I mentioned, extraction and ventilation. They also have filters to prevent the air that is coming from the outside to not bring any dust or insects along with it, which means you're getting fresher and cooler air that will improve the internal conditions of your home. Next slide, please. Based on the size and based on the flat layout and the size of your flat, we will decide the design team will decide the best location for the MVHR units. So if your flat is smaller in size, there might be a provision to include the unit in the ceilings, while if it's a bigger flat, then the unit might be best placed to go into a cupboard. Next slide, please. So all the MVHR works will be done as a part of the internal refurbishment works to your flat. What you see on the screen is an MVHR unit, which is called the Brink unit. This is just an example of how the unit may look like. And these are one of the common units that are being fitted on the estate. Next slide, please. The key components of an MVHR system will include the main unit, which will be placed in a cupboard space or in the ceiling, as I mentioned earlier. And there will be ducts that are running from the unit to different rooms in your house for extraction and ventilation. And as you can see on the picture in front of you, it's just an example of how it may look like, where the unit might be placed in a cupboard. And then you have the ducting that is going from it into different areas of the room. That's it from me on ventilation, but please do feel free to reach out if you want to know any additional details about MVHRs or other ventilation options in general. I will now pass it on to my colleague Janet to talk about the heat network. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janet and I work with a team who are looking at the heat network proposal for the Lancaster West estate.
Hi, Janet, just to let you know that you're on mute.
I don't think my microphone's working.
Hi, Janet, I can hear you.
I can hear you fine as well, Janet.
Hello, my name is Janet. I am part of the Heat Network team who are putting a proposal together to deliver heating and hot water throughout Lancaster West estate, including Camborne Mews. Next slide, please. So we are working to find an estate-wide heating and hot water solution as part of the estate's goal to become carbon net zero by 2030. This presents an opportunity to address existing heating problems on the communal heat networks that serve 80% of the estate. Camborne Mews, Treadgold House and Verity Close residents currently have combi boilers, but those homes will also have the opportunity to connect to the new heat network. The new heat network will use renewable energy and replace the large gas boilers and gas boilers in individual homes throughout the estate. The map on the right shows the different experiences of residents of their heating. It's a very varied experience across the estate. We go to the next slide. We asked people what they thought of their heating at Lancaster West. Camborne Mews had some of the most positive experiences of heating today, with 86% saying that they liked their heating overall. 100% said that they heat their home to the current comfort level, which is 40% higher than other people across Lancaster West. Next slide. So to explain what is a renewable heat network, heat is produced by a local energy centre. It is then delivered through underground pipes to individual buildings and homes. It will work with a heating system that looks quite like your existing system, and so your radiators and so on won't change. Next slide. This diagram just gives a bit more explanation about how it works. So we start on the left with a local energy centre. In the middle, we've got the underground pipes which deliver hot water. And on the right, we have heat being delivered to your home, to your radiators. And then to pay for your heating, you will pay the council directly rather than a heat supplier. Next slide. These are the items that will be installed in your home. There will be a heat interface unit, which includes a heat meter. This looks very much like a boiler and works in a similar way too. The radiators will also look very similar, but have improved controls to turn the temperature up and down. And a thermostat will also have improved controls to set your heating to come on when you want it to. Next slide. We have been asked by lots of residents about how resilient a heat network is, and we have built in lots of different measures to make it as resilient as possible. For the energy source, we will be using green electricity, which will be supplied from the electric grid, but it will also be topped up by solar panels on the rooftops of various buildings throughout Lancaster West. The heat source will be an air source heat pump that is going to be located on the leisure centre roof, and it will have a backup electric boiler. And in addition to that, we will be building a thermal store, which is the image that started off this presentation about the heat network. And then in addition to that, we will also have a backup gas boiler located in the leisure centre, and then the option to wheel in a temporary boiler if it was ever required. So we've got 5 different heating sources that can be used with the heat network. Heat will be delivered through pipes to each residential block, and those pipes have special sensors on them so that we could quickly detect any leaks. The heat network has been designed with lots of backup and will operate in temperatures of -4 degrees Celsius. It will operate in temperatures below that, but the efficiency becomes less. Next slide, please. This outlines how the heating in your home will change. Today, you have a heating supply from natural gas. In the future, you will have renewable heating. The current heating system has a boiler. That boiler will be replaced with a heat interface unit, which looks very similar and has similar controls. Some homes in Camborne already have a thermostat. We will update that with a smart thermostat. Radiators are standard wet radiators with controls on them. We will replace those with more modern versions. And then today you pay a gas supplier for your heating and hot water supply. In the future, you will hopefully pay the council for your heating and hot water supply. Next slide. So although this project is quite down the line, we are already thinking about how the bills will work. And most people who live in Camborne Mews, this kind of bill setup will be very familiar because it's set up to be like a gas supply bill, except for it will be for heating. So leaseholders will pay a standing charge and a usage charge for the gas that they receive or for the renewable heat that they receive. And tenants will just pay a usage charge. The standing charge is incorporated within your existing rent. Next slide. As part of the Heat Network project, we have developed a resident price promise working with residents through a focus group series last year. This has come up with 3 rules for our price setting, which will happen in probably about a year's time. So the first price promise is that we are refurbishing blocks so that you will need less heat. We expect that's going to be around 25% heat reduction required. The second price promise is that until 2030, you will pay no more than the price of gas for a unit of renewable heat. The third promise is that the standing charge is going to be based on property size. This only applies to leaseholders, so a 1-bedroom apartment will pay less than a 4-bed. Next slide. As part of the co-design, these are the questions that we're asking at this point of the emerging preferences and choices. When your new heating system is installed, you will receive new heat control options. We are considering a control panel, mobile phone, and just the radiators themselves. We would like to know how you would prefer to control your heating. When the heating system is up and running, you will no longer need to pay your gas supplier for heating, but will instead pay the council. We would like to know what your opinion is on how we should deliver those bills, whether they should be to a phone, to a top-up meter, standing order, or another preference. Next slide. The renewable heat will be available from 25 to 2026 at various blocks through the estate. Connections will be arranged whilst the refurbishment of your block is underway. Next slide. Ahead of arranging the heat network installation and the refurbishment of your block, we have a Goodbye Gas campaign, which is offering residents the opportunity to replace your gas cooker with an electric induction hob. This will begin to reduce your gas bill down and your reliance on gas. If you would be interested in talking to someone about this opportunity, please phone or email us. Next slide. And I'm going to hand back to Letitia.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Alekia. Thank you, Janet. So as I mentioned earlier, survey forms will be coming out to you along with the Emerging Preferences and Choices booklet. We've indicated how you can return all the forms back to us. And here again, we've provided some information. If you're doing a paper survey, all residents will receive a copy of the refurbishment survey in the post. You can return your completed survey to baseline reception or put this in the post, the dedicated silver survey box, which is just by the entrance to Camborne Mews, the main entrance to Camborne Mews, beside the notice board. If you're carrying out your survey online, please request that all residents sign up to the e-newsletter and will receive a link to carrying out the survey. You can also access the online survey by scanning the QR code that is shared on the social media and on the booklets, posters, and letters. You can also text or WhatsApp us on the number you see in the booklets, and we will send you a link to the online survey and offer guidance and support where needed. Please do not miss out your chance to have your say as part of the school design process. The deadline to return completed surveys is midnight of Sunday, 30th of July, 2023. Next slide, please. Before we go, I would like to let you know about the e-newsletter for residents of the Lancaster West estate. It is really the best way to keep up to date with all the refurbishment news on the estate and on your block. We have provided information here as to how you can scan the QR code and how you can keep up to date on what is happening at your block. There are posters up on the notice board by the main entrance gate into Camborne Mews. Please scan the QR code, which you can also find on our Instagram bio at Lancaster West Neighborhood Team. When you subscribe, please indicate which block you live in so that we can send you updates for your block. This is particularly important if you don't want to miss out on the refurbishment news for Camborne Mews. My colleague and I would like to thank everyone for watching this webinar recording. Please don't hesitate to contact Lancaster West Neighborhood Team here at Baseline if you have any questions. We look forward to receiving your completed surveys by the deadline date of 30th July 2023. A gentle reminder that the recording of this meeting will be going up on our website, www.wearew11.org, and on our We Are W11 app, which you can download from the App Store. Once again, my colleagues and I would like to thank you for watching this recording. Thank you.